Indio 212, com check.
CPS, go. Inco, go. PUS, go. Surgeon, go. Booster, go. Copy that. We have a go from you guys.
This is Talking Sound.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Talking Sound podcast, coming to you from Austin, Texas. Chris Jordan, your host here. Please don't forget that Talking Sound is now officially brought to you by podcastcadet.com. If you're a fan of podcasting like me and want to start up a show for yourself, your business, friends, family, fun, church, school, whatever, stop on by podcastcadet.com today. We are the place for you. We have everything from branding experts who help you start your show, figure out the name, graphics, people who help teach you the technology behind recording audio, editing audio. We have people who help you with distribution, monetization, everything from A to Z. Podcasting is all we do. Stop on by podcastcadet.com today. Talking 20 is the code that you want to use. Talking 20 will save you 20% off your entire cart. Stop on by podcastcadet.com today. Our guest is Henry Rogers. He is producer of the amazing show Lone Star Jukebox, as well as Guitar Center Pro account manager out of the Houston area. Good longtime friend of mine. How are you doing today, Henry?
Hey, good afternoon, Chris. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Doing great, bud. It's been so great to reconnect with you. I knew you, close to a decade ago. You were my GC account manager for a church that I was lead tech at over in the Houston area, and that's kind of how we became friends. And after I moved here to Austin, we kind of kept track of each other on social media, things like that. And it's been great to see you kind of branch out into the podcast realm. I know that you had raging years in live music, things like that. And just talking to you the other day about Lone Star Jukebox, it was really great to hear the zazz in your voice about it, the excitement. I love seeing people that start getting excited about projects. That's how you know that they're actually going to go somewhere, is when people start putting weight behind them. So let's kind of start off a little bit with just how you got into podcasting in general, and introduced into this world. And then we'll start getting into some new podcast tech, things like that are available out there.
Yeah, so awesome. So I've been, a live sound audio engineer for over 20 years. And I kind of, got in the whole audio world just through that. And one by one thing led to another, and working with artists and working around other people in radio broadcasts and doing interviews and watching people do interviews kind of led me into the whole podcast world, taking some of these interviews and converting them into podcasts and stuff like that. So that kind of sparked my interest in watching it online, of course, like everyone else, and getting in, kind of engulfed into the whole thing of it, and here I am, trying to be a voice on the web.
Yeah.
So it's been fun.
It's always so organic, the way that podcasting comes about, for most people. I mean, I've been trying to tell people whenever I speak publicly at conventions and the like, that as a former broadcast engineer, broadcasts are catching up with us.
Exactly.
And I had that conversation with you the other day where it's like, we have stolen their audience. They are no longer what people listen to 90% of the time on their way into work during drive time. If they are getting into work, they're no longer allowed to browse things on the internet frequently. So that means no more online internet radio station, stuff like that. So they're using their mobile device and they're streaming our podcasts. And now it's the fact of whenever the morning show ends, it's, hey, everybody, make sure and tune into the podcast right after the show. Because they're doing anything
they want to keep the conversation going,
Well, they're doing anything they can to keep you as their listener right now. Yeah. And if that means that, like, their daily show host has to host another hour after the show, hey, guess what you're doing?
Right.
Just as a former on-air producer, it's one of those, guess what you're doing now?
You're recording a show.
Yeah, like
that we're going to put online.
Yeah, you've got another hour after you're off the mic in there now. Because we're losing people. And like, that's a metric that gets tracked hard, with TV and radio, is the listenership and viewership. So,
yeah. And I really find it intriguing that people are, want to hear a 45-hour long, 2-hour long conversation. And, it's pretty, you think about it.
Yeah.
In our world of, everything needs to happen now fast, and
Yep.
move on to the next thing. But we've got time to listen to a 2-hour show about one subject,
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool.
Well, and it's great, like I was saying in our conversation the other day, it just goes right back to AM radio and the fact that AM radio has now seen a spike in listenership. Because of all this, because of the fact that people are starting to realize that, there's great content out there. And really podcasting has kind of picked up that mantle of the AM radio when it comes to getting new things out there, when it comes to conversations that weren't typically allowed to be had on mainstream radio services, but ended up on college radio, ended up on locally produced radio out of people's backyards, communities, things like that,
Public radio, yeah.
Yeah, because, even... Go ahead.
And that's precisely where our show comes from, is the Lone Star Jukebox started out, the gentleman who started, his name's Rick Heysquierdo, and it's a 28-year-old show on public radio in the Houston area, and it's a 3-hour show on public radio. Yeah. And you've heard it, you're familiar with it when you lived here, I would imagine.
I loved that show. That was one of my regular listens on KPFT, was like that Cajun Saturday morning. Of course, the Avant-Garde show every Sunday night, because I was a regular guest on the Avant-Garde show every fourth Sunday. Pat and Rosie's Night Sounds, Dead Air. Like, KPFT had a ton of great shows. Yeah. And Lone Star Jukebox was just among one of those that really featured heavily Texas music, Texas artists, things like that.
Yes, and he'd always be really good about having, someone in there to interview every week, and once a month we were doing a Troubadour Tuesday show. And this is how I got hooked up with Rick, was about 5 years ago, doing these Troubadour Tuesday shows at Cottonwood. And so every second Tuesday of the month, we would do a concert at Cottonwood in Houston. And they were artists that Rick promoted on his show and had on the interview on his show. And we'd have them out to Cottonwood, and they do a 2-hour show, and we'd record it. We take snippets of the show, and they'd rebroadcast them, next week on his show and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's one thing we're working on in our archive, is that we got 5 years of recorded shows.
Wow.
From
awesome.
Cottonwood.
Dude, that's great, man. Whenever you can do it, like I was telling you the other day, I have all the shows I was on with KPFT chronicled, and whenever you can do that, like it blew my buddy Alan's mind, Alan Cunningham. Shout out to you, bud. He was the one that really got me into live venue recording and live venue engineering years ago before I moved to Maine. And God, I've still got probably a good 30 mini discs full of live shows that we did with bands like, 10 Mile Tide, Bone Pony, like all these great jam bands that are now making the circuit, like Humphreys McGee, just all over the place. And it's like, wow, I got all these great bootlegs that are like straight off the board from back in the day.
Yeah, that's great, man. I mean, that's the stuff. And it's funny because, people want to hear that stuff now, like you go online and you look at YouTube, and there's, live concerts from, 1978 of your favorite band, Yep. It's somebody's favorite band.
Yeah.
And they want to hear it.
Precisely.
You know?
And even now, from the venue that I worked at in Maine and sold live recordings at, I've got easily 2 reams of CDs and DVDs of live shows.
Oh, that's great.
So, like, just to be that archivist that is holding all of that is like, wow. Like, this is literally a trove of musical tradition from a place. And it's really cool to be involved in something that deep.
Yeah, that's another thing that really interests me about it too is the history. I'm a big history buff and fan of that. Rick's got, he's got all 28 years of his show recorded either to cassette tape or a hard drive or SD cards or compact flash cards or something. So, these have piled up over the years. And so this is one project of ours. We have a whole station set up to just digitize all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And because eventually,
as the station floated from one recording format or output to the next, that's what you went out and got.
Yeah, cassette tapes.
Yep,
like mounds of cassette tapes, dude.
Yeah. No, all mine. My brother was the one that recorded my shows for me, and I got to hand it to him. Like, shout out to my brother, because he is not a tech. All right. Like he's not like a wires kind of guy. But he literally had a tiny little TV set up to channel 3 with a radio going into the audio input on a VCR and had it set to start recording 10 minutes before and stop 10 minutes after. And it was like, that's brilliant. Number one, now I've got like beautiful, like analog audio on this VHS tape. Not only that, you figured out a way to set a timer and go to sleep for a show from 10 to midnight. Good on you back in the 90s, bro.
I know, man. It's crazy. You had to use stopwatches and pause buttons.
So, yeah, I've got like literally this entire box of VHS tapes that is my live show.
Oh, man.
And
that's great.
But that's just it. That is what begets people getting into things like this. It's what really began my love of things and my love of recording the way I record. What was it that really made you? Because, of course, as an engineer in-house somewhere like Cottonwood, you're running across bands regularly. You get asked by bands to come out and engineer things like that. What was it that made you specifically with Rick be like, yeah, man, this is something that I like. This is a mantle that I want to take up, because as you're saying, it's not your average mantle. It's not your average, like, hey, let's just get together on a Saturday, Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, I started doing live sound back in, I'm going to put, age myself here, but back in 1996, doing live sound at a venue in Houston called The Abyss.
Oh man, I miss that place.
And yeah. And we did mostly like alternative rock, and metal and crazy wild stuff, and I was still in college at the time and learning as I go. I had been in audio school for probably 6 months and got an internship at this place. And within like a month or two, the main guy left and I was the guy. So, in this, So it was like trial by fire, throw to the wolves sort of scenario.
Welcome to mixing front house.
Yeah, exactly. So I learned as I went, but I also got to be really good friends with a lot of the artists that played there over and over again. We saw each other a lot. We became friends. And so I always fancied myself as an artist sound person. Like I'm there to make their vision kind of come complete live. Yeah. And I accept that.
Yep.
I'm not there to impact my taste upon their, what they're trying to do. Yeah. And so I've always appreciated music, and I've always appreciated artists and music artists, and that's kind of why I got into this. I didn't get into it to inflict my my musical taste and what I want to do musically onto their music. I want to help them. So I've always been interested in their opinions and, what they want to do musically and sonically and where they come from and what inspired them. And I think, listening to, someone ask those questions of people on the radio and things like that and really want to get to know things like that is, that kind of intrigued me,
Yeah.
So, we're all not getting any younger either. And so I'm just looking to, put my, branches out into different areas,
Yep.
in radio, and always been interested in broadcast and just never really gone down that road,
Yeah.
And so now I'm going down it,
How's the journey been for you so far? How have you been liking it?
It's been fun, it's fun. I want to proceed more on it. Definitely. It's definitely a learning curve.
Yeah.
I've never been comfortable talking in front of people per se. So being able to talk on the radio or whatever
that's what makes you so great at sales, Henry.
Yeah. Right.
Well, no, I mean,
Exactly.
literally, people think that selling is quite literally a lot of talking. It's not.
No.
It's listening. It's listening.
Yeah.
If you just shut up and listen, the person will sell themselves.
Oh, totally.
Like they came in with an idea of what they want. Maybe you'll recommend something, but it's not that hard to quote, convince somebody to buy something that they came in to look at, folks.
Oh, totally. Yeah. No, you just have to. But just like you said, they're going to tell you everything.
That's right.
That they've already. They're going to tell you everything that they've already done.
Yep.
30 days of research on, on the internet, before they came in to talk to you. They just wanted to bounce it off somebody real quick and
get it locally.
Yeah.
Well, and that's just it. Like it really is a trust barrier when you're an audio engineer. That's a theme that goes on this show regularly whenever we talk to live audio engineers. Like we had the author of In the Hot Seat, the guide to monitor engineering. Mm-hmm. And exact same thing. He's like 90% of what I do is nonverbal. It's picking up on visual cues from the musician.
Yep.
And this is what brought him to the point of one of the most requested monitor engineers out there. And it, like you're saying, it was not imposing his flavor on what they wanted to hear. It was literally just giving them what they wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're in baseball, it's like reading signs, it's like, you gotta have good eye contact and, especially in monitor world, you gotta look, when you get that look from an artist, you know what to do.
Yeah, you do. And if you don't, you better learn real damn quick.
or you know to hide or
That's
whatever.
That's right.
You
know to hide, duck, something.
Yeah. Yeah. We've all seen that look.
So what have you found from the world of live engineering that is crossed over into your world of podcasting?
Well, all my microphones work for it, so that's great.
That's always a plus.
No, I mean, it's all my years of routing signal and setting up home recording studios and doing all that kind of jazz and recording voiceovers too, because I did that for a while. All of that's played into learning how to do it, and that's the easy part when it comes down to it for me. Just making a broadcast sound halfway decent,
Yeah.
So that's, and of course, we're at the station, we're using Rodecaster right now. So until we expand,
beautiful,
but, it's great.
Really, the only way that you can get better than a Rodecaster is like a Rodecaster with a cloud lifter or a Rodecaster with an actual analog pre. Like throw a tube pre in line before, something like that. I got
to throw my request into Rode. I want to see them make one with
the tube in it.
No, well, well, that'd be great, but just one that lights up, nice and bright. It doesn't do anything. It's just a tube in there.
Yeah. Just
No, I'd like to see one that was geared towards radio that maybe had some more inputs on it.
Yes.
Maybe had even a couple of SPDIF inputs on it,
or
you could route a media player into or something,
Yeah, something like that where you could firewire control things or optically control stuff. Even being able to, I think being able to patch in would be great.
Yeah.
To have a couple of insert channels in there where you could patch things out into your own compressor.
Yes.
That kind of stuff. That way, if you've already invested in, let's say something like an Avalon, or a DBX EQ, something along those lines, or DBX compressor. Not that I'm not a fan of Aphex. If you could see on my camera back there, you'd see a lot of Aphex in my rack. I love Aphex. That's hands down a go-to in the broadcast industry when it comes to vocals, things like that. You don't see them in music studios too much, but you see them, especially things like the compeller, that kind of stuff, regularly in broadcast studios. So,
yeah, you definitely do. I've got my I don't have an Aphex, but I'm using over here right now is my iPad signal chain is what I got going on with you right now. Is my what is it, a Beta 57 286A?
Yeah.
Into my iRig.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually used to have a ART tube preamp before my stuff, and dropped most of my pre's on my podcast rig. Went with Cloud Lifter, and I've been happy with that on most of my stuff. I love my MXL mic. This MXL BCD1 is hands down one of my favorite mics out there for podcasting. They run about $129, something like that. And it's basically
sounds good on this end.
It's like a RE20 chopped in half.
Oh, really?
The specs for it are right next to the RE20. Maybe a couple of few hertz side to side, but I mean, literally looks just like one. They are crazy affordable and hyper wound cardioids. So, it's nice, great noise rejection, nice wide diaphragm on it. It really does get a great sound.
Yeah, it does sound good. I'm gonna have to check those out.
Now,
we haven't.
I was gonna say let's start getting in, because obviously, as we're prone to do whenever we get on the phone with each other, Henry, we've gone down the tech rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and start addressing some of the things that you see regularly from podcasters that are coming into you over at Guitar Center. What are some of the issues that especially beginning podcasters are facing?
Most of them just need some guidance, is what I'm seeing. I see a lot of, and this is something I see also on the forums too, after getting into podcasting and getting into reading podcasting forums on Facebook and things like that, and seeing the randomness of ideas out there about how to go about, just plugging a mic into something, and what do you need to do that.
Make me weep inside.
Yeah. So I think that's mainly the main thing, I've actually learned a lot from fellow podcasters on how to do back end stuff that I had no idea to do, like the podcasting services and stuff, things like that are
distribution
still just,
and monetization and that's
all of that stuff.
It's a whole other side of the industry, much like any part of the music business. Like you could probably have somebody come in and go, okay, so I need an amp and an effect, what would you recommend? This is what I play. And you could probably walk them around the store for a little while and show them quite a bit. But if they came up and went, hey, show me some distribution options for my album.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Totally different.
Exactly.
Totally different side of the coin.
Totally different thing. So I'm trying to take what I have got years of experience in and trying to add that to the mix of, helping people make their podcast sound better.
Yeah.
Also look better from a, camera angle and all that kind of stuff, because got a little history there too.
Yep.
In broadcasting and whatnot, and switchers and all that kind of jazz. I want to give a quick shout out to some friends of mine that are doing some live streaming real fast.
Do it.
Sound as a company here in Houston that I recently set up with a Black Magic switcher like yourself. I think we talked about this. You've got an A10 Mini.
Yep.
And they're using A10 Mini Pro.
What was the name again? You dropped out at the beginning.
Oh, Texas Live Sound. So yeah, if you search Facebook, and they're on Instagram and all that stuff, and they're doing live streams from their warehouse. Since they can't do shows right now, they're having bands over, and they set up a sound stage, and they got lights and sound and moving heads and and fog machines, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. They were actually on Fox 26 News here in Houston last week.
Nice.
Trying to get some press.
Yeah.
Very good on them. So they're doing it, man. Things are moving online, Well, it's crazy,
And that's just it. Before COVID hit, everything else, as most of my audience knows, I've transitioned from the world of rock and roll into the world of high-end corporate AV. And have spent the last 2-3 years traveling the country. I'm normally on the road about 30-35 weeks a year doing that. And
that's awesome.
In that time, my gear purchases personally were all going toward the streaming market. Everything over the last few years, it was like this was, to me, at least in my side of the industry, the most underserved side of the industry. With people who knew how to properly run a webcast, people who knew how to RMTP serve, things like that. Different softwares, integrating all that kind of stuff. And I bought the gear, and I told the people I was vendors with, like, hey, I've got this. Here's an option you can sell. And they were literally like, man, we try to sell it. Nope. Nobody's buying. Nobody's buying. Like, they want to do a live stream, but they don't really see the purpose in doing it. And now it's literally going to be whenever things restart, you will not have an event without a live stream. It's just not going to happen.
And that's something I'm trying to tell a lot of my clients who do concerts and bands and things like that. And that's what they normally do is, whenever this gets back on board and you start doing shows again, you're going to need switchers and cameras unless you want to hire somebody to do it. Or
at least, or at the very least, one camera at the back of the room.
Exactly.
With the shot of the dance floor or mosh pit or whatever you want to call it at whatever venue you're at,
Right.
Like half that and the rest of the stage, with a feed going, something.
Audio from the camera or audio from the console into the camera, something simple.
And once again, this is quite literally an industry following our path, following something that we have already blazed forward.
It is
that you could go out on probably any podcast group and find 20 conversations today about how do I stream my show on OBS? How do I use OBS? How do I integrate it? How do I do it? Like it's everywhere now, and we are inundated with it. So yeah, it's interesting. Even today, like we're on video Skype today, chatting with each other. It's pretty rare that I use video. I just happen to know that my wife and kid are out of the house right now and not out front streaming video. But even that, it's one of those I hear a lot on the forums, like, oh, Skype's horrible. And it's like, I don't know. Are you using a laptop or are you using a desktop? Are you using a hardwired internet connection or are you going Wi-Fi?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Do you have a family of 5 streaming things in the front room while you're trying to have a Skype experience? Because that may be affecting your quality.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm over Wi-Fi right now, but I don't know how it's coming out on your end. But
it's coming out all right, but I mean, there is the occasional chop of something, and that's normally how I can tell that somebody's on Wi-Fi.
There you go.
Like, there are just certain things as a broadcast technician that you want to do to mitigate as many circumstances as possible. And I think that's really where our experience, both, I mean, studio, live, everything comes in, is like we were saying before the show, the raging years of rapidly putting out a technical fire with almost nobody noticing. I tell people at shows all the time, if you see me move, something went horribly awry.
Totally. Yeah. If I gotta move, then there's something wrong.
That's right. I shouldn't have to move from this seat while you're up there presenting. If you see me move, like, something ain't right.
Right. Yeah.
But it really is that preemptive mentality that makes the show go well. It's that knowing what can go wrong, knowing what could go wrong, knowing your signal path, knowing your patches, all that kind of stuff. And it's a large learning curve. It really is. And it's a daunting learning curve, especially if you're a podcaster out there that wants to start streaming video. And my suggestion is always, if you don't need to stream video to do your show, don't stream video.
Right.
Like, you know, it's one of those, as a former broadcast producer, what is your content? If you're doing instructionals, if you're doing things like that, sharing stuff, sharing videos, articles, that kind of stuff, totally. If it's just people on a screen talking, maybe not. Maybe you don't absolutely need it. And that cuts budget down considerably when it comes to things. It cuts technological needs down considerably. It's one of those, like, give your show 6 months. And if you're still doing it, if you're still going, maybe think about moving to video.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you've got something visual to show, you know, then show it. You know, if like you said, if it's just vocal content and that's all you're trying to get across, no need for the video.
Yeah. And now, what are some of the things that you're out there recommending to people right now as a first-time podcaster, maybe as somebody who is not a technically proficient person?
Sure. So yeah, I mean, the cool thing about right now is there's like you've seen, like you've seen and we've seen online, there's so many new products coming out that are geared towards the market.
Yep.
And people, and, you know, vendors are catching on finally. What I see a lot of is people going in gung ho and just spending a lot of money up front. Maybe necessarily don't have to, you know, to get started with. And I see that a lot. So there are some things out there that work really well that don't cost a lot of money to get started with. And that's typically what I try to guide people through. Well, you know, is if they got the budget and they want to spend the money, there's, you know, let's get them a Rodecaster and, you know, an SM7B, and let's get them the rig they want, you know.
Absolutely. I'm not somebody. I mean, hey, I contacted you the other day just because I wanted a new board for my studio, not even for this use. Like, just for my musical use over here. It was like, I've seen this new board from Tascam. I'm gonna call my buddy Henry, and we're gonna see what can happen.
Nice.
And it was literally one of those. Even in my text, if I'm gonna spend money, I'd much rather spend it with you.
Well, thank you so much for that, by the way. And you have to tell me how that works, by the way, because I've been watching those myself, and I was debating on whether or not to go that route versus a Rodecaster, to, you know, for an all-purpose. I know they're kind of different,
Rodecaster.
You know.
It's I mean, as a former radio technician, you will get nothing better than a Rodecaster. You will not. If you want an extra computer,
that's the way I feel too.
If you want an extra computer to fire sound cues from, go for it. If you want to integrate another computer into a mixer and have one more line that can crackle, pop, go for it.
Sure. Right.
Like, I can set up mix minuses all day.
Yeah.
No problem. Give me 28 auxes. I'll have 27 guests.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they'll all sound beautiful. The question is, do you have to do it? And when it comes to the Rodecaster, I don't get paid by Rodecaster folks. And quite honestly, I've owned an Rode product in my life. One. I have one Rode shotgun mic that somebody gave me. And I love it. It's a great mic. But, and their products are very well made. But when I saw this, it was like, ooh, now that's an all-in-one solution. Mix minus incorporated already for you, Bluetooth, phone, USB in and out, multi-track capability through DAW as well as on SD card now. Whenever it first came out, you could not multi-track on SD card. And built-in effects, like usable effects. The one that I must actually say that I really love is the new reverb effect that they added. Where it's like, oh man, you can add just that psychoactive reverb that's in there that just makes it sound like the room is real. And it's so great. It's so great. The fact that you can go in now and tweak those parameters and it's not just like compressor on, compressor off. So it's been nice to see someone like Rode who listens to the consumer and listens to engineers. And whenever we give them feedback, they do something about it post-haste.
Yeah. Said we talked about this before. They're a great company.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy the product. We use it at the radio station. So that's what we use over there.
Yeah.
We use EV RE320 mic on the main host mic. And then we have just regular old SM58s for the guest mics.
Yeah.
And they work great.
Yeah, no, I mean, 58 is my go-to recommendation for anybody that does not know microphones.
Not everyone needs an SM7B to start with.
No,
you know, I mean,
not everyone needs an SM7B. Period.
$100 microphone.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, even this MXL that I'm talking on, $129.
Yeah.
You know, like. Not crazy expensive. You can go out and buy, and be careful out there, folks. If you're out there buying off Craigslist, if you're out there buying off eBay, there has been a rancid rash of fake Shure products out there.
Yes.
So make sure it's spelled properly. That's number one.
You'll also find those in flea markets all over the country.
Yes, flea markets, pawn shops, all kinds of stuff. So it's one of those.
We get those in. We get those in at the store sometimes. People bring in counterfeit ones to try to sell us
with a huge gaudy switch on it, and you're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry."
Yeah, or it weighs about a pound, half a pound less.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's easily done nowadays. The counterfeit goods market when it comes to that kind of stuff. You really do have to be careful. If you're not somebody who is schooled in gear, I don't recommend buying used. That's just me. As my professional recommendation, I would send somebody to someone like you all day long where they're going to treat them right. They're not going to steer them wrong. They're not going to oversell them on stuff that they don't need for their purposes. And that's quite honestly the one thing I've always loved about you, Henry, is you are not necessarily an upseller. You're literally someone who listens to the customer, says, this is what I'm trying to do, and you literally give them the best, most affordable option for what they're doing and for their skill set.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I've always tried to do, and I think that's what I've had good luck with clients, keeping them over the years, or and just being honest with people, because I don't want to be sold something I don't need, personally.
Absolutely.
I don't know why I would do that to someone else, to even my own detriment sometimes, but yeah, it's. got to be honest with people.
You really do. You really
don't really have. There's not really much else we have in the damn world, you know.
Well,
but when you're talking about equipment too, some of the other things I've been recommending to people, you know, not everybody has the budget for a Roadcaster to get started. If they've got, if they say they've only got their computer or an iPad or something like that, and they just want to do some vocal recording.
Yeah.
I really like the little Yamaha AG series mixers. You know, I don't know if you've seen those before, but it's a little bitty, really simple 1 or 2 mic input mixer. Yep. I think they're like $150, $200 for each model. Get one of those, get yourself a $100 microphone and some headphones, and you're good to go for a while, you know?
Yeah. Granted, like I've been a big fan of the Behringer UM series. Yeah. As far as interfaces go, I had the Focusrites. And really, unless you're getting like pro grade Focusrite, I've yet to have a non-noisy experience. Let's just say it that way, where it's not like, okay, let me crank this gain just up so I can hear something right. Yeah. For me, the Behringer had a much better build quality, much better sound quality, and I think was a whole lot more affordable overall.
Surprising, man. It really is. Yeah, it has a really good interface.
Well, and their team up, or rather not necessarily team up, but purchase and joining of the family of Midas and Sound Group was really great. I think it really did a lot for both of them. Midas was really losing in a lot of markets, and Behringer was not necessarily going down in markets, but really needed to be able to step up into some new places. And I think it really helped both of them bridge a couple of gaps that they were looking for. And
definitely.
It really made a marked difference on even the consumer grade stuff that came out from Behringer preamp wise. Even to have the lowest end Midas pre in something was better than the best Behringer pre. So
look at the X32 console and how that changed the live sound market. It was one of those that there were 2 companies that really, as far as audio and video, came in and changed things entirely, and one of them was Behringer, the other was Blackmagic. Blackmagic came in and was like, hey, we're going to provide all this stuff in an utterly affordable package. And just came in and knocked people at the knees and left people scrambling to catch up. It's pretty incredible what they offer for the price, you know. It's
like you can go out and build and I've done it. You can build a full television broadcast studio for less than $10,000.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And to know that like all of when we met, Henry, if you had 10 grand, you were maybe getting a TriCaster. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe you were going to get 3 cameras.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe.
And now it's like you can go in and have the 8-input switcher, monitors, cameras, the whole bit. It's amazing. And Behringer very much whenever Uli left Mackie, it was because he was one of the head designers for Mackie. He designed the famous Mackie where the ad was them like standing on the Mackie mixer.
Right.
You know? So when he left, they had just redone the preamps in all the Mackie mixers. So he was not able to use his new preamp design, because it's of course locked down to proprietary to Mackie for a while. And that was part of the reason why whenever they launched, they had those horrible 4-prong British connectors that always came apart.
Oh, man.
If you remember on the old 1201s, 1204s, stuff like that. And
we used to stock extra of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Like those boards were great, but those power supplies were horrid. And the preamps on them would sometimes go out It was so bad. And after it almost destroyed them, until that 7-10 year gap where they could start using things and the quality started going up. And it was like, oh man. But there was always some in-house stuff like the Ep13, things like that were phenomenal pieces of gear.
Remember the Ultra Curve RTA?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, just
the most affordable and useful with a giant screen on it.
Yep.
You know, you hook your RTA mic up to it. I used one of those back in, 1999?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yep.
And it was great.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They had a lot of things like that were out there and ahead of the curve, as far as getting them into lower market hands, other than major touring companies, things like that, where whenever us as house engineers walked in, we had them at our disposal. It wasn't really until DBX started coming out with their rack series and that kind of stuff, that things really started changing and going that full digital route. But, you know, with podcasting, I think it's been interesting to see how fast the market has changed gear-wise, how fast they have really turned on point and put focus onto this industry. Everybody.
Yeah, it really has been. And I think they're, with due just cause, Yeah.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see this whole industry really take off over the last 6-7 years. I mean, it's been around way longer than that, but only over the last 6 or 7 years has it really started chugging along the way it is now, where, like you're saying, people are going, like, there's places like Anchor where all you got to have is a cell phone.
Right.
You know? And to be able to have that at your fingertips, it's great creatively. It really is. But the question comes down to the technology being utilized, the technology and the curve of technology. So.
Oh yeah. And that's something I always approach to when dealing with a client or recommending things to a client. You always have to gauge their own technological experience and, how much they want from it and how much they want to deal with it,
Yeah.
Some people don't want to have a lot to deal with, they just want an input into the phone and let the phone deal with the rest of it,
Yeah.
Some people like a more technical front end, like the two of us. We're audio guys. So we're going to like all the tools on the technical front end of it.
I want my buttons and my tweak knobs and.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you got to put your consultant hat on. And put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah, and I mean, even going back to the cell phone thing, like there are major companies out there now, like DPA microphones.
Right.
Just popped into my head a second ago whenever you were talking about that, because I remember all of 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I went and covered. I normally go with Talking Sound and covered the Texas Association of Broadcasters trade show. And go around and talk to all the vendors about the new stuff. And they had just launched that series of like preamp driven cell phone microphones specifically for iDevices. I don't think they make anything for the Android market. They focus specifically on iDevices because that's what most news agencies send their reporters out with, things like that.
Right.
But
definitely.
My God, man, the quality that they have for a microphone that plugs into your cell phone is crazy.
It's crazy.
Even some of the USB mics. I'm a big fan of Movo. When it comes to portable stuff. Big fan. They are utterly affordable. Like if you're an Android user like me, they have a little lapel mic set that has 2 lapel mics and a headphone jack, where if you have sound cues, you can listen into them. You don't hear the headphones because, of course, there's no back pre coming off the headphone amp of your cell phone. There's no way to route those two together. But for $30,
Right.
it is the coolest throwdown device I have. I have one in my backpack and one in my computer bag. I literally do not leave the house without one.
Is that the PM20S thing they have?
It might be.
Okay. The little lavalier, yeah, plugs directly in your phone. Yeah, that looks cool. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at their page.
Yeah, they're great, man. My wife has a pair. Everybody on my network, pretty much, I've purchased one for at some point, just about, or at least sent them the link and said, if you're going out mobile, this is all you need. Like,
perfect, man.
You can sit down, pop the lapel mics on, and just hit record on your voice note. Done. Like things like that, they have fantastic solutions. One of my favorites is their USB PZM microphone. They've got they've got an omnidirectional PZM that's like $79. That, man, I've used in straight up noisy restaurants, and just like put up on a napkin dispenser, and gotten great shows. Like in the middle of restaurants or cigar bars, you know? And yeah, like there are so many things out there that are there to explore, there to find. And if you're not necessarily, an audio fiend like we are, you may be skipping past some of them. You know?
No, I mean, I didn't even know about this company. So,
Mobo is my jam, dude. Like,
well, now I have to, a website that I have to look at for a whole day now.
Oh yeah, you'll enjoy it. They're actually their reporter microphone is fantastic.
Oh, okay, they make Ceramonic.
Yep.
Ceramonic's one of their brands.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm familiar with Ceramonic.
Oh yeah,
we sell
absolutely.
some of their stuff, but
yeah, because they sell like they make of course, the Ceramonic Dual XLR into iPhone, all that kind of stuff, which I'm sure y'all sell over there at GC. So,
yeah, we carry some of that stuff on our website, if you will.
Now, what's your go-to for a portable recorder, Henry? Because that's probably, just with the conversation right now, probably the biggest question that listeners are asking themselves is like, get into portable recorders, man. Like, what are you using mobily other than your cell phone?
Well, I mean, as an audio person, I'd use whatever works.
Sure.
But what we currently have for the radio station is where you have a Zoom H6.
Okay.
That we roll around with to do mobile stuff.
Very popular.
Yeah. And then we have some, some handheld mics with Lone Star Jukebox mic flags on them.
Yep.
For interviews.
Yeah.
And we have a little Sennheiser E&G clip-on kit that clips onto the mic, and the receiver clips onto the H6. So, I could be standing there with doing the audio. We have a video guy.
Yep.
We're linked up, and I'm getting wireless audio from Rick's wireless handheld.
Yep.
So that's how we're currently doing mobile stuff. And then if we're sitting at a table, we'll bust out just some little stands on weighted bases and plug them into the H6 and record that way.
Sure.
We leave the Rodecaster at the studio.
Yeah.
Yeah. For now, anyway. I haven't used it with the battery bank yet.
I was designing a battery bank, and that is quite honestly my only complaint is that there is not a battery bank.
Yeah.
There's not a rechargeable battery.
USB to DC. Do they make a DC adapter for it or something like that? But
do they?
Yeah, Rode makes a cable.
Oh, send me a link to that if you have one, because I'd love to see that. That is literally my only complaint is that there's not like a built-in rechargeable battery.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that would be another thing to add if they ever decided to,
or just a juice pack that they sell separate. Like, I'd gladly buy a Rode branded, $80 juice pack for it. That'd give me 12 hours uninterrupted of every channel with every effect, full tilt boogie.
It might be on the way. Who knows?
I would not
it
doubt
seems
it.
like they're coming out with stuff for it all the time, or updating the firmware, and it's definitely a product they're going to keep.
It's something that they're not going to stop supporting anytime soon.
No.
Like you said, to see something come out a bit more toward the broadcast market, I can definitely see happening.
And you're going to see more of it too, I think.
Yeah.
It's not just going to be Rode. Well, as like you this Tascam board that you just got, it's got a mix minus channel on it.
Yes, it does.
You've got the Zoom Live Track 8 that's got a mix minus channel. Yeah, and it's got the little pads. They're tiny, teeny, tiny little pads, not like the Rode's giant pads.
Yeah.
Nice pads.
Nice, big, soft pads.
Yeah. Exactly. You got these little bitty little switches, but you can play back, drops from the mixer and stuff like that. So you're going to see more of this stuff coming out. The Zoom, that Octopus H8 thing they came out with, we talked about that.
and that's the thing. Like, I love Zoom. Don't get me wrong. Like, right here on my effects side of my rack, I've got like 4 Zoom rack effects. I love them. They do some great things. They've got some great products. I'm just one of those people. I've used Tascam for 20 years. I still use my Tascam Porta Studio 2.
Yes.
Like, still. The original one I bought in 1997.
That's awesome, man. I wish I still had mine.
Like, all you got to do is maintain it. Like, a buddy of mine in Houston gave me a whole blank box of chrome tape, like studio quality duct tape. Like, here you go, buddy. You're the only guy with a cassette deck that I know. But with my electronic music, that is literally the only way to get a proper reverse analog sound.
That's cool.
You can simulate it, but it's not quite the same as that individual drag and tension on a tape, It just sounds different. To be able to pump that thing up all the way on speed, record it, bring it back down to normal and reverse it. Oh, like, it's one of my favorite techniques around, for
That's
just
awesome.
getting long, droney sounds.
Totally.
So,
yeah, that's tape manipulation. There's nothing like it.
Exactly. It's a big reason why the tagline for this show, Henry, is where -10 is a number to be desired.
Nice.
Because, hey, if it takes that -10 home piece of gear for you to get the sound you're looking for, go for it, man. Like, I've got a couple of DBX 163s that are old compressors, but highly sought after, and they are RCA in and out.
Everything was back then.
But, man, they sound beautiful. So if that's what it takes to get the sound, go for it. And that's what I try to explain to people on groups all the time, is that there is absolutely a preferred way to run audio. There are best practices. Is there something set in stone as to how it has to be done? No, man. As long as it's working for you, do it. Like, yeah,
totally. There are right ways, per se, and wrong ways, but it's pretty open-ended,
That is.
When it comes, as long as you're going into an in and coming out of an out on whatever it is you're doing, something will happen.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You will get some result.
It's important to use your ears. You got to remember it's audio.
That's right.
And not IDEO.
And on that note, Henry, what are a couple of tips, I guess, engineering and equipment wise, that you would give to an aspiring podcaster, somebody looking to get into the field, things like that?
Come up with your a game plan of what you're going to talk about more than anything, because really the technical stuff's going to fall in line pretty easily with some basic ingredients.
Yeah.
Decent microphone, decent way into your recording medium, And I would say the biggest task is getting your material in order, getting what you want to talk about, the ideas you want to get across, the interviews you want to have, and how you're going to market those to people or get those out to people, that's what I'm finding out, because I'm definitely not an expert at podcasting. I'd say I'm more of an expert at the audio and the recording of it.
Sure.
Recording, making a mic sound good and making people feel comfortable. I'm pretty good at, and that sort of thing. But the getting your material in order and having your ideas in order are probably the biggest thing. Having an outline, is a good thing. That sort of thing. I don't necessarily believe in a completely scripted sort of thing, as you can tell.
Yeah, but, same here, as my audience knows.
yeah, exactly.
I try to explain to my guests, and especially Dudes and Beer. I've had some, and even here, I've had some pretty big money guests on. I had the guy who designed Qbert on my show.
Oh. Man, that's cool.
Like the programmer of Qbert.
Spent so many hours playing that game.
I know. That's what I told them. I was like, you have no idea. Like, my mother could hear that game from across the house and know I was not doing my homework. Thanks for that.
Boing, boing.
Yeah, at the beginning. But yeah, people like that. I had like the keyboardist for Night Ranger on, all kinds of cool stuff. But it's literally just a casual conversation.
Yeah.
I've got a few bullet points. Like you saw me here on camera before we started. I was like, hold on, I'm going to write a couple things down. Cause just as we were talking in pre-interview, my mind started cooking and it was like, I want to hit this. I want to hit this. I've normally literally got a piece of paper in front of me. I've got a little whiteboard.
Yeah.
A tiny little whiteboard. And up top, it's the episode number, who my guest is, what we're promoting, what they do, and then just like 5 things.
That's perfect. It doesn't really need to be more organized than that.
If we get to all 5 bullet points, great. If not, like all the bullet points are really is a chance for me to, if things start to lull and I see one and we hit on it, I can springboard and bring in new conversation. That's it.
That's great. That's great. That's good. That's good pointers right there. That's, having a basic outline. You don't need to be it doesn't need to be scripted. People don't like that anyway. People want a natural conversation, I think. And that's why podcasts have become so popular, is it's most of the time it's just a natural conversation. Yeah. And you're not on a time, on a timed thing where we got to get through this answer and get to the next question sort of thing, Yeah,
exactly. I mean, Dudes and Beer especially can be good God, man. I've had 5-hour-long episodes of Dudes and Beer. We used to go out and do like live from the Mikomoto auction, and it was like 7 hours long, man. Like 45 minutes, 10-minute break, go pee, come back.
That's a marathon, man.
It was, dude, this last year, Talking Sound was actually invited to go with the Tech Podcast Network and cover CES.
Oh, wow.
Dude, that was marathon. That was great. Literally 8 hours of interviews every day for 4 days straight.
On the showroom floor, or y'all have like an area set up? Or?
Yeah, they had like a little studio set up right on the showroom floor. We'd go out and we contacted people beforehand. We went out to press events and stuff and contacted them and set up schedules, and literally it was rotating hosts. We tag teamed out. And it was like we all had an hour-long shift or so, but it was 8 hours long, all day, every day of interviews. Just constant flow of interviews. It was wow. It was intense, dude. Like nonstop. There was maybe about 3 minutes of break where it's like, okay, let's swap out operators at the board. That was it. It was crazy, man. But that's the stuff I live for. It's so much fun to go out and be on site and doing stuff. And like, I ran into technical difficulties. I had an SD card go bad in my recorder. Like, what do you even do with that?
Yeah.
Like, I got all these baller interviews that, they just went into the wind. Like, I can't even use them. And it's like, there's nothing you can do when your SD card dies.
Yeah.
It was recording. It was going.
Yeah.
Just
yeah,
garbled
man.
info. So
that's another thing I recommend to people is try to get a backup if you can. But
always.
Yeah.
Always be. I was on a show the other night and I finished up, and it was somebody who'd contacted me and asked me to come on a show. And after the show, they were like, "Thank you so much. It was great." I was like, "Let me know if you need a copy." I rolled 3 records, and they're like, "Whoa!" It's like, yeah, I'm like NASA, man. There's triple redundancy going on in my studio. I got 3 different forms of recording going on all the time. I can't let it escape. So, but, oh man,
that's great.
Well, tell everybody where they can go to get a hold of you at Guitar Center Pro in Houston if they are looking for equipment, if they're looking for advice, if they're looking to set up a home studio or take their home studio to the next level, bud.
Yeah, man. So you can all I would suggest emailing me directly. I'll go ahead and give you my email. It's Henry, my first name, HENRY .Rogers, ROGERS at gcpro.com. That's the best way to get a hold of me. You can also just go to Guitar Center's website, and there's a section for GC Pro on the website. You click on that, you'll see my picture there under the Texas location, and you could click on there, and it's in, all my contact information's right there as well.
Great.
So that's on guitarcenter.com, but you can also email me, henry.rogers at gcpro.com.
Fantastic. And where can they all go to tune into the next episode of Lone Star Jukebox and all the past episodes?
So yeah, Lone Star Jukebox .media is our website. You could just go straight there, and as soon as you're there, the radio station is streaming on the website. You could turn that on or off if you'd like to listen. That's the live stream. You can also listen to our living room sessions, which is the podcast that we currently have up, which are interviews with Steve Earle's on there, Jerry Jeff Walker's on there,
Ooh.
Ronnie Kroll's on there.
Oh man.
And these are mostly conversations, but they do bust out an acoustic and play a tune or two during the conversations. So really cool. Most of those were done either at Rick Heysquierdo's home or at the artist's home. It's like with Jerry Jeff Walker, they went out to Austin and went to Jerry Jeff's house and interviewed him there.
Nice.
So some really cool stuff on there. Like I said, those are all from the archive, though. We started this whole Lone Star Jukebox internet radio project, I would say middle of last year when Rick went off of KPFT.
Yep.
And so we've been diving into the archives, digitizing these things and putting them on there. And we were really supposed to start our new interviews and new conversations with artists during South by Southwest this year. And we all know what happened with that.
Look at what God did to us, man.
Yeah, with the COVID. So we are, instead of starting new interviews for this year, we're kind of gone back to the drawing board, and we're working on our archive still, and we're going to be getting more things loaded into the podcast, the podcast, the living room session podcast.
Cool.
But be on the lookout. We're also going to have the Troubadour Tuesday archive coming.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and we're going to have the house concert. It's a Lone Star Jukebox house concert series that we also did that is archived as well. So those are going to be 2 new podcasts we're going to start having, and we're going to have new interviews. So it's a work in progress, but LoneStarJukebox.media is basically where you could find us.
Nice.
We also have an Android app and an iPad app in the App Store.
Awesome. Love it. Well, man, thank you so much for taking the time not only to help me out this last week, but to come on and talk to the audience. I'd love to have you on regularly to talk about new tech out there, new things available out in the world of AV, new things available out in the world of podcast tech, all that kind of stuff.
Definitely, man. This is so fun. Thanks for having me on.
Hey,
and,
always, bud.
be happy to talk to you anytime about anything that I know anything about.
Hey, you'll be there. I guarantee it. I will be contacting you. So please do hold the line while we close things out, Henry. Thank you so much once again for taking the time and for coming on, talking about Lone Star Jukebox, as well as all the great stuff available out there at Guitar Center right now for podcasting and more.
Oh yeah, man, it's kind of an exciting time. So thank you for having me on, and
always
happy podcasting, everyone.
All right, well, hold the line real quick while you're online checking out LoneStarJukebox.media, as well as GC Pro, Guitar Center Pro, and checking out Henry Rogers there and all the great gear. Make sure to stop on by podcastcadet.com. They are our sponsor. All we do there, folks, is podcasting, whether it's branding your show, starting your show, taking your show to another level, getting an audit for a show that already exists, just to see what you might be able to do better from somebody else's eyes. Make sure to stop on by podcastcadet.com today. Use the code TALKING20 to get your 20% off. Until next time, everybody, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and remember, keep reaching for 11. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
This is Talking Sound.